Hey Dev Bootcamp, my name is Kenneth Uy. I am 20 years old and I come from New York. One thing I'd like to introduce about myself is that I used to be a pharmacy student and applied linguistics major, and now I've decided to take the year off from school to focus on programming. So I really hope to be accepted into DBC. One thing you should know about me is that I have a huge passion for Japanese entertainment. Now, what does that have to do with this video? Well, ever since my passion for Japanese entertainment started, I've been studying almost every single day for the past few years, and because of that, I was able to pass the JLPT N2 just last year. More information on that in the description box below. You can probably guess where this is going. Basically, I'm going to be teaching you Japanese in a simple yet effective way that I learned while I was studying my own early on. For example, many traditional methods focus on learning kanji individually, but in my experience, that's just a waste of time. What you should do is rote memorize words. Let me show you why this is effective.
Alright, for purposes of this 5-minute video, I'll be using Romaji to get my point across. Now, to someone seriously learning this language, I would first tell them to thoroughly memorize both hiragana and katakana before moving on to anything else. Now, with that said, when people think about learning Japanese, the first thing that gets people is how difficult it seems and how many kanji characters they need to know, when kanji in the Japanese language is actually not that big of a deal. First, let's take a look at what's in a kanji character. First, each kanji has its own meaning and set of readings. This can be a problem if you're going to learn 2200 commonly used kanji. So instead of trying to learn them all individually, let's see how learning words can solve this problem. Let's take a simple word like taberu, for example, which means to eat. One thing to take note is that unlike kanji, neither hiragana or katakana have a special meaning and only have one way to read them. This allows us to focus on the kanji on the left. Since hiragana doesn't have any special meaning, we can assume that by association, this kanji means eat or has to do with eating. Now let's take that one step further by learning a new word. We'll touch on readings in a bit. Let's start with the word chōshoku, which means breakfast. Now, does one of the kanji in this word look familiar? It's the same kanji used in the previous word we just learned, taberu, which means to eat. Now, taking this information we just learned, we know that this word is read as chōshoku. It means breakfast, and the kanji that it has to do with something with eating. Now, can you guess what the other kanji in this word means? That's right, it means morning. Now, let's try learning one more word. Let's keep in mind two other words we just learned, which is taberu, which means to eat, and chōshoku, which means breakfast. The third word is chūshoku, which means lunch. Now, while chūshoku and chōshoku sound familiar, you might have noticed that the shoku part in both words are completely the same. Well, what can you deduce from that? That's right, the kanji reading for this is shoku. If you thought that was a fluke, what do you think this kanji is read as in a word like this, or even a 4 kanji long word such as this? That's right, this is read as shoku. This is the word for evening meal, and dinner is read as yushoku, and this is read as jakuniku kyoshoku, once again, and it means survival of the fittest. Now, what have we seen so far? Basically, what we have done is learned a bunch of similar words and then reverse engineered them to understand the bits and pieces in them. Now, why is rote memorizing words effective? As you can see, as for seeing patterns in kanji in words, there are many exceptions to the rule. So obviously, if you memorize each word, you'll remember how to read each correctly, even if it seems a bit different from what you observe. Learning kanji individually is like learning your ABCs, except there are thousands of them, which means they're not particularly helpful unless they come together to form actual words. And if you start studying words, you can use them right away in like sentences or paragraphs or whatever. In the time one spends studying 2200 kanji, which takes about maybe 3 months if you're really serious about it, you can basically do the same thing by reverse engineering words as you learn them, and already be able to communicate or comprehend material to a certain degree. And the best part is, everyone who studies kanji individually will at some point realize that this is just as important, so it's probably a good idea to get the upper hand as early as possible. これで最後になりますけども、Dev Bootcamp の皆さんにいかがでしたか？この動画で何か学んでいただけたら嬉しいです。最後まで 見ていただいてありがとうございました。それで、さよなら。